You had a subject that you wanted to discuss. That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
This has already been talked about a bit, but I think
But
it's
not
something,
by us.
No, not by us. So now that's big.
The final word.
But the reason why I was thinking that we should discuss it, because it didn't occur to me until I saw it in the video. I often bring it up because I usually see things in videos, and one of the shows I like watching is the PBS Idea channel, and they brought up legality issues involving 3D printing. We'll put a link to the video there because it's really interesting, and 3D printing is, because we keep talking about Oculus Rift, but 3D printing is one of those big technology, I think, markers that are going to change how we live in the next years to come. So, and they brought up, and it didn't occur to me until they said, like, it makes so much sense, like the legality of miniature games, of people being able to print out miniatures. Because imagine you wouldn't need to buy them anymore. You can literally print out your X-Wing or your Shaman or something.
Like literal, like up until now, board games have been pretty much piracy immune.
Sort of. Like you could maybe print cards, but you need like.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah, that's true. You can print cards, but if there's any kind of tokens,
but you still need to stock and stuff in that,
yeah,
and then like
board.
But 3D printer has a lot of other applications, and if you could even print out and sell, like the figurines on the cheaper.
Right. Yeah. No. It is very interesting. It's definitely got beneficial and non-beneficial applications for board games. I think as of now, like they're still pretty expensive, right? 3D printers. Not a lot of people have them.
I haven't looked at prices,
but I think they've been around for a few years. Like they're kind of starting to permeate more homes. And I know especially.
Well, not only that, companies.
Right.
Like, there are people who.
Makes it a lot easier for the companies themselves to print their stuff.
Or even like it makes an investment because I know, and they talk about this in the show, and like the idea of print, like I know people print out like model replicas of guns and stuff from video games, like props, and like is that legal or not? Because they're not like no one's selling that and stuff, so it's like
right. I think that as long as first of all, I think that it won't be as a big problem for a long time, only because not just because of the expense of 3D printing, but the materials themselves and the time it takes to create them. Although I guess it's not that long, if depending on what you're trying to do. But like if you want to print like a whole game of Descent or something like that takes some effort, right? That's not like you can just. It's not like downloading a TV show or something.
Right, but I think this would definitely hit more something like X-Wing.
When it's just one ship and you just want the new ship.
Or like. Not even just the new ship, like, let's imagine if we're going to a tournament.
You want like 4 of that ship.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Actually, it's probably a little hard since they come pre-painted and everything, but like the other stuff.
Oh, I hadn't thought about like tournament play, if you could actually like sneak a bootleg one in.
Yeah, but I was thinking like definitely more the like War Machine or something like that, where they don't come painted. So if you see something that's even sloppily painted, you're not going to question it.
Right. I mean, I think that it's definitely in the company's best interests to get ahead of that and embrace the 3D printing beforehand.
No, and that's one of the things they also talked about how people are going to companies handle this kind of stuff. They brought up, for example, the music industry. How at first they tried to stop, MP3s being stolen by it failed miserably.
Exactly. Well, it's like we've seen with Steam and Netflix. If you provide an alternative to piracy that is cheap enough and easy enough to use, people will use that instead.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a company needs to do is say, hey, you can 3D print our thing for $10 and it's easy. You just click a thing.
That's actually one of the things they actually offered, which as sort of as a option, would be like they make like I'm trying to think of I'm totally blanking right now, like Pirate Press.
Privateer Press.
Privateer Press. Thank you. Like, what if they on their website you could actually be like, click here to download the plans, but this will only be available for like this amount of time or something, or.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes perfect sense. Or like you can buy it from us for this much, or you can just print it and paint it yourself. Well, or whatever it is.
But those are some of the suggestions they brought up, and I think it's definitely something as board game industry. I mean, like we're just starting to understand throwing in apps in our games.
Right.
I think this idea, and this doesn't really affect the actual gameplay of games themselves. But in terms of seeing how board game companies could maybe take advantage of that, like even let's say how many times have we seen shortages for game parts or pieces? Like they could actually hire a 3D printer company to be like the replacer guys.
Or you could even like, if there was some kind of an error, and it'd be like, oh, we forgot to put this piece in. will just send it to you instead of having to ship everybody a new piece. You can just print it yourself. Or if they just have like a little update, like, oh, this guy was a little off model or something. If you want the new version, we put it up on our site for you to download.
Right.
Stuff like that would be pretty cool.
But like we said, we're not actually lawyers here and have no study in law, so we don't know the official legality.
It's one of those things where it's a new technology, so it's a gray area.
No, I mean, as far as I can understand, the law is always like a decade behind wherever we're.
Well, it's like if someone's selling a drawing and you can recreate the drawing by hand, like that's not illegal, right?
Those are the questions.
Sort
that
of the
come
same
up,
thing in my mind.
Of course, here's the big one: would you download a car?
Everybody would. If you wouldn't, you're lying. I will 3D print as many cars as I possibly can.
Would you illegally download a bear?
One part at a time. No.
You wouldn't do a bear?
No, that's not. That would mess up the ecosystem and stuff. You can't be introducing new bears into the environment. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if I will ever have a 3D printer in my lifetime. I don't know. Like it's weird. I don't know if that will be a thing that's necessary for me. It might be.
I mean, well, it was a very interesting future to see what.
Like in 10 years, maybe everybody will have one.
Yeah, like you wouldn't go shopping. You like go out to buy. Like, oh, I need a table. Click. Right. I'll be back in 2 hours.
You just like you'll order a box from Kickstarter and then you print all the pieces or something. It's delivery that day. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to hear people's thoughts, especially if people out there watching actually have 3D printers.
Right.
Have done this before. I don't know if I think maybe some libraries or like schools and stuff like that have 3D printers that you can pay a fee to use for certain things. I'm sure there's some places have like a Kinko's with a 3D printer or something like that.
New Kinko's 3D.
New Kinko's 3D.